What is going on, everybody? Mario here in Fight and Exchange, in Fight and FX. Happy Cinco de Mayo. I wore the Cinco de Mayo Astro shirt for the occasion. Listen, we have a ton of topics we're going to go over through today. I think, let me check again. I think Machine Gun Matt's coming by. Let me, where did I put? All right, let me see. All right. So anyway, yeah, we have a big show today, jam-packed with topics. Okay. So we got Fabio Wardley, Daniel Dubois for the WBO heavyweight title. We're gonna break that fight down later in the show. We also have a preview for UFC 328. Chimaev and Strick. What the fuck? Where is That was weird. An ad just started playing out of nowhere. I couldn't even find it. What the fuck? All right. Anyway, so we're gonna talk about. Let me just share the screen. This fight coming up this weekend. It has reached a pretty significant boiling point. I honestly hope it happens. I really do. For no other reason than to kind of like make some of this um what's the word, like just like promotional talk, right? Making this all feel like a narrative. I know that's not what it is, and I know a lot of people feel very, very strongly about Sean Strickland, and I get it. I really, really get it. I do. But there is an interesting narrative that I've come across. Shout out to, I think it was Carlos, um, an article on Sean Strickland that is essentially it was Chelson that kind of helped spark this topic, but kind of UFC's last hope against the onslaught of these fighters from Russia and the various geographical places in that area, uh and you know specifically Hamzat going on a generational run with the title. This is a guy who people have been, I don't want to say scared of, that makes it sound weird, but have been
While our nation's best are
assuming
giving their
will hold on to the title for a really long time, and mostly in a way that is not super exciting. And so this is going to be his first title defense of the middleweight belt. And you can see that he is on a every other match stopping his opponent. He had a unanimous decision against Gilbert Burns, sub against Kevin Holland, Usman with the majority decision, and then recently, or not even recently, it was in 2024, October 2024. I thought it was in December. He subbed Whitaker before beating DDP last August. Now, you look at this resume, he's got 3 fights in the last 3 years, and yet he seems to be as unbeatable at this point as it gets. I do think Strickland has a chance. I really do. I don't think it's a great chance. I'm not telling anybody to bet on him at all. But I think most people realistically see this as like a 75-25 fight. And it all depends on Strickland showing up, right? But we're going to talk about this fight. We're going to also talk about some of the things that have been said, I guess, from both sides, and why this has become such a polarizing fight. You know, God bless us if we get to it, but I guess we're going to find out. Anyway, we're going to go over that. We're going to go over the Wardley stuff, but wrestling is on the docket first. We're going to go there with it because there's a lot of shit going on right now. A lot. Shout out to Bruce Gas in the chat. What's going on, champ? We're going to be talking Wardley if you want to jump on later. Just a heads up, Bruce. But listen, this is the thing. Times they are a changing. I don't know who said that, but it was somebody fucking smart. And times are a changing, specifically with WWE as it relates to TKO. Now, I know that my community, for the most part, are like hybrid fans, right? Most people that watch my show, I'm finding have like a hardcore interest in one specific combat sport, like let's say boxing, right? But they also enjoy wrestling. They're not hardcores anymore, or if ever, but they can appreciate wrestling, right? Simultaneously, I'll have friends who are super hardcore UFC or MMA fans, right? Hardcore UFC fans are different from hardcore MMA fans. I want that to be clear because that community, there's nobody that speaks outside of that community, right? Like, and so I just want to make it clear that there is a difference between the UFC dick suckers and people that actually appreciate MMA. And so I know this to be true, right? And that's why I focus so much on TKO, because even if you're just a hardcore into like one specific combat sport, it doesn't matter because ultimately what's going on here is affecting everything across the board. Now, while the UFC might seem like it's business as usual and there's nothing really changing, that's not true at all. The landscape and the way that they not just do business and book fights, but the way that they are going about making stars, or even not making stars, let's say that, it's all related to this big picture. And so we have the cuts of last week, right, as it relates to TKO. And we have the cuts of the last 2 weeks, I should say, right? And Kyrie Sane, Aleister Black, Wyatt Six, and it's funny because of all of them, Santos Escobar was the most fucked up, right? This is a guy that they brought back, even though he didn't want to go back, brought him back, signed him to an amount that he couldn't turn down, let it slip, or they put out into the media he was getting this huge push, comes in AAA, ends up getting injured, and then they cut him. And it's like, that's pretty fucked up. And so at the end of the day, I want to break this down into two ways. Now, the big headline news is Roman Reigns is being asked to take a pay cut. Now, that is not confirmed. That's not verified. In fact, there are very few people that are actually sourced up within WWE that have any reason to give credence to this story. However, that's my impression of the old Jewish guy from Coming to America when they're talking boxing. You remember when he tells the story about the spoon at the end, the joke? Anyway, Roman Reigns, the story came out last summer And it was after WrestleMania and, you know, during this whole thing that was going down with John Cena and the heel turn. And what we ended up getting was this. Uh-oh, who's there? Oh, I think I know this person. He's a funny troll. What's going on, champ?
First of all, don't ever refer to me as a troll. That is just atrociously disrespectful.
In what way?
It just is. Refer to me as the GOAT, Your Majesty.
The GOAT troll, yes.
Call it what you want.
I don't know why is troll troll is like now a term of endearment. It's like a person who is a comedian.
Like a person who is a comedian.
Wait, why am I hearing myself twice?
Wait, why? Twice.
Oh,
What the hell? Hold on 1 second.
No, you're good.
My bad.
You're good. Let me mute it
All
up.
right, we should be good now.
Oh, you got it? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I mean it as a term of endearment. Somebody who is capable of cutting through, and you know, that's you, champ. So anyway, I'm talking about the Roman stuff.
I educate the masses.
You educate the masses. Thank you, champ. That is exactly what you do. I'm talking about the Roman stuff, and I'm setting it up. Last summer, we actually spoke about this too. You were on the show last summer when we talked about this, and you said that there was little to no credence about this, and I mostly agreed then, and I mostly agree now. But the stories are coming out that Roman, who said he was going to be here all summer, right? And he's a full-timer and he's back, and he gave y'all the chance. He gave y'all the chance to step up, right? Punk, why not? Why didn't you step up? Penta, where are y'all, right? That was the whole storyline. And now we're seeing that some of the bookings in June are being taken away after they just announced Roman for these dates, and now he's starting to drop.
After he just said, you're going to see me all summer.
After he said you're going to see me all summer. And now there are reports, again, unconfirmed, that Jacob Fatu is walking away with the title on Saturday. Mex, what are your thoughts on all this stuff? You know the history of it, so, you know, don't try not to do too much inside baseball, right? Like, explain where we're at and why you believe what you believe as it relates to this story.
You know, I'm not sure what to believe. What I do think is, I think TKO has really decided, hey, we're paying you a shitload of money. We need to see you. You know,
Max, you dropped off. You there, champ? I think Max dropped. All right. Well, we'll wait for him to fix the audio. Yeah, I can tell that the mic's off because he's not it's not even registering. So anyway, the story last summer again was that TKO was going to restructure, right? And it got to the point where people assumed that Roman Reigns would not be excluded from potential cuts, right? And from being asked to cut his salary. Okay. Now that all really died down. However, what was interesting about it is that the story held so much credence. TKO did decide to produce a lofty goal for their you know, for how much they were going to make, right? For revenue. This is money made revenue. We're not talking total that already that doesn't include, you know, money that is made, right? Yeah, you sound perfect now.
How far did I get, or did you get any of that?
You literally got cut off like immediately.
Damn it. Okay.
You said, I don't know what to think about this, and then literally went silent.
Oh, okay. Well, I think TKO is most definitely saying, hey, they need some ROI back.
You did say that. You did say that. You didn't put it with the ROI, and I love that. That's an even better way of putting it. But that's it, and I 100% agree with that.
And I would be willing to venture that Netflix has gotten the ear of TKO and said, hey, we gave you guys a shitload of money. Cody's on SmackDown. We need Roman.
Agreed.
And look, man, like I said, it's not like Roman is working a house show loop. You know, you're the world champion. You can't give up a day a week to fly in. I'm sure he takes the
Word.
PJ, you know, fly into to Raw, do your Raw appearance, and keep it pushing.
You're absolutely right. And I want to just do a
But
sidebar real quick. Oh, go ahead, Max. My bad.
what I was gonna say is I actually agree with what I saw Dave Meltzer say, which is really it's like, look, if Roman keeps the title Saturday, then this story is just a scheduling conflict. But if he drops the title to Jacob, like the rumors are saying, then they've definitely restructured the deal.
Dude, thank you. Thank you for introducing it that way, because not only was that absolutely critical to this, right? It gives us all a sort of like North Star to follow with all this, right? Because they can muddy up the waters any way they want. All of this could even just be to like sell the idea of TKO being this, evil company and playing it towards narrative, which here's the thing. Everything that TKO's done to make themselves the bad guy, I love all of it if it ends up paying off. Like, pay it off on TV, right? Just don't just be the bad guy in the IWC dirt sheets. Use it. But at the end of the day, I'll tell you this. I think this shows that nobody's even close to Hogan. Maybe John Cena, but this era, Roman doesn't have those kinds of cards, dude. It just doesn't feel that way.
And not just that, like I said, we've got to remember that, like, I think Roman's new deal came under Vince. You know what I mean?
Did it?
I could be wrong. We'd have to
I
look,
might be
but
right. Let me look. Go ahead. I'll look at
and not just that, Mario, but does Brock's shock retirement have to do with maybe TKO was like, hey, we're paying you all this money, you're gonna have to start showing up a little more often if you're gonna have this. And I think there's a lot of credence that we've gone back and forth, Mario. But at the end of the day, look, the fact of the matter is, the way WWE you knew it is dead. And I, based on some comments that I saw Nick Khan said, I got to verify if they're true. I think the next thing to go is the Legends deals.
Wow, really?
Because we're paying these guys, and it's cool. And you know what? And I love Legends contracts, because these guys that gave their body and soul to the sport deserve, they don't have a pension plan, so that's the closest thing you're gonna get. But they're talking about, hey, we got dead money and guys that just are gonna show up for Mania and XYZ. And I'm like, I'm thinking these guys are like looking to just give people Mania payoffs for making appearances, and that's it. I would not be shocked at all if we see Legends deals go away.
Yo, that is a big comment to me, honestly, because it's like, dude, that is kind of how they've been able to like keep everything at bay. You know what I mean? To keep everything sort of from kind of spilling out in the way it happened with the Monday Night Wars, right? Like if I could look at today's landscape and say anything like, oh, this is definitively why this is, I would look back to like, Lex Luger showing up on Nitro right after he was in, a big program on WWF the following week, right? Or the next day on TV. And then the what was her name? Alundra Blaze, right? Her throwing the title in the trash can. Like, all these moments that we have references for during the Monday Night Wars are never going to happen in this era. Never. These people are the most shrewd businessmen, and they understand business like none of us could ever even hope. I think the problem is that they're not understanding the wrestling business very well.
No, and that's the biggest problem we see today, Mario.
Shout out, Alex.
I think you saw. I don't know if you saw what I put in the group chat yesterday. I think we're going away from them being independent contractors as well. I think they're going to become full-fledged employees.
No shit.
See, and this is where not only as fans, but now as the boys, I think you're going to start missing Vince, because Vince understood the boys. TKO does not. They're just, they're just workers to them. Nothing more, nothing less. It's like working for Walmart. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No. I agree. But that's the problem though, Mex, is that see, when the Astros, if they were to cut Altuve, we would be fucking pissed, right? We would be mad. But if we win, we don't give a fuck, right? We win, we don't give a fuck, right? Like we go back to the Biggio and the Bagwell era, and Astro fans like us, we hold those so sacred, and yet we didn't win shit back then. Biggio and Bagwell didn't bring us any fucking World Series. Why do we hold them so near and dear to our heart? Because they are Astros. Berkman is an Astro, and he represents every facet of what it means to be an Astro. And that used to mean something with WWE. It used to mean that Miz was a lifer. Kofi was a lifer. New Day were lifers. Roman is a lifer. I don't know if that term exists in this current. In fact, I'm almost sure it doesn't. Are there any such things as lifers anymore? Max jumped off. That's all right. Can someone please say something positive about the potential future of WWE? I'm hearing way too much doomer talk. AEW is still going to be glorified feeder league for WWE for the next 5 years. Listen, and Alex, thank you. You're right. We should get a grip on the conversation. At the same time, I want to make it also clear, none of this is like, I don't mean to have this conversation with the assumption that WWE is like headed towards the end, but that's ridiculous, right? Ridiculous. More so, the conversation I'm having is that, okay, so the Dodgers, the LA Dodgers, they're a team right now, right? They exist in the MLB, right? And their brand is very Hollywood, right? And it's been that way forever. And so if like you're a Dodger fan, you associate certain things to the Dodger blue, right? And it's like Hollywood, and it's like fucking Weinstein molesting, and it's like, champagne dreams and caviar wishes, and rape kits because people are monsters, like all these things that happen in LA and Hollywood, right? But did you know that they used to belong to the Brooklyn Dodgers? And do you know what that narrative was? Do you know what the branding was on the Brooklyn Dodgers? It was very, very different than what the LA Dodgers are. So more so what I'm saying is WWE at the end of the day is a franchise, right? Even though wrestlers are pitted against each other, and there's like there is a kayfabe and non-kayfabe claw to the top, right? Everybody wants to be that top guy. But WWE is the umbrella that houses it all, right? I'm not watching WWE anymore. The WWE that I know, the WWE that we all collectively knew. And so it's not to say, oh my God, they're headed towards the end. No, it's to say we've hit the end. We're done, right? Because in the old Vince era, or even the old WWE era, the WWE that we've known for the last 40 WrestleManias or 39 WrestleManias, whatever it was, that WWE is dead. It is dead. They don't give a fuck about how much money you've made them in the past. They don't care how beloved you are. They don't care about any of that aspect of it. So in turn, it's not to say that AEW is on the verge of taking WWE out. Not at all. It's to say that what we once knew as WWE no longer exists. And how does that change the landscape of wrestling, specifically as it relates to competition between WWE, AEW, and don't forget New Japan, TNA, CMLL, AAA. Even though all these brands are either loosely associated with one of those companies and or just own outright, they all want to get over their own shit. There is a lot of room, right? When you start letting go of guys like the New Day, who are polished. I mean, Kofi just had a match, and it was actually good with Javon Evans. All I'm saying is you're opening the door to potential programs in AEW that we once thought were unfathomable, Did anybody thought we were going to get New Day and the Elite? Did anybody think that? Oh shit, my bad. I got a bunch of okay. For example, Ricky Saints and in the future Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Yeah. And see, okay, and Alex, look, I'm not disagreeing with you at all. Okay. We're not having a debate. I am fully in agreement with your overall point. However, you're saying two competing things that aren't rectifying. In one hand, you're saying AEW will exist as the feeder system to WWE for the next 5 years. And I agree. If we were on the same trajectory we were on 2 years ago, that's without a doubt. And it probably still is. But today, it feels like that relationship can change, because while you're saying it's a feeder system for WWE, if WWE isn't going to ever treasure any one WWE act, and if nobody is ever going to be considered a quote unquote lifer ever again, then what we find ourselves in is a potential AEW or WWE being the feeder system to AEW of talent that has the ability to still go, but is not gotten over, right? Like a rocket ship, in the way that Obafemi has, or the way that Ethan Page has in both AAA and WWE, or NXT rather, right? This is a new era, right? It used to be, if you were capable of making money, we're going to keep you around. If you could have been the face of this company at some point in the last decade, we're keeping you around. We see the value in that. And today that's not the case. And they're trying to get younger and they're trying to get fresher. The problem is that the suits, Nick Khan, Ari Emanuel, don't understand the wrestling business. And they're not responsible for the cuts, right? They're not responsible. They say, hey, we need talent, the talent budget to decrease by half, whatever the fuck, right? We need that. They're not deciding who gets cut. They're just telling you to make cuts, right? And by the way, all of this in the wake of Triple H getting a pay raise by, I think, 3 times the amount. And then Nick Khan, Ari Emanuel, and Mark Shapiro all making 20 million plus. One of them made like 43 million in 2025, for the TKO. So it's like, when you see the shifting landscape of what value means in wrestlers, you leave the potential door open for what we saw in WCW. Now, you're going to all think I'm crazy, and I'm not. He's sitting here trying to tell you that, fucking Austin Creed's going to come and be the next Scott Hall and Kevin Nash with Woods. I mean, with Kofi. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that they're going to come in and then we're going to find out fucking who's an ex-WWF wrestler that's big over. We're going to find out Cesaro's the third band. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is that once upon a time, Vince McMahon, the head of WWF, thought that Hulk Hogan the juice was no longer worth the squeeze on Mr. Hogan's career. And so they let him go. They just said, fuck it. We don't need these old men anymore. They think they're worth more than they are. Be gone. Right? Remember that WCW movie, the wrestling movie? Be gone. Isn't that how he did it? Be gone. That's how he did it, right? Isn't that how he did it? You know what I'm talking about? The WCW, what was his name? The King, right? Be gone. That's a good impression. Don't fucking lie. Stop. You're fucking hating. That's a good impression. Anyway, it's the situation where they thought Hogan was yesterday's news, right? What happened? What happened when they got rid of a bona fide star who they thought was no longer over with the crowd? He reinvented himself. And yes, he didn't do it all on his own. And yes, a lot of what he did was played and stupid, and he depended on the younger guys around him to make him look cooler. But it didn't matter. He was the draw. That's all I'm saying here. I'm not saying Roman goes to AEW and becomes Hogan. I'm not saying that the New Day become the biggest stars in the world because they switched over. I am saying that the landscape of wrestling has officially changed. It's different. And we could see The Miz and MJF on AW programming sooner than we could on WWE's. That's, I think, as true today than ever before. More true today than ever before. Is almost 20 years each not lifers? No, lifer means for life, Matt. You know that. For life. Hogan didn't go up to Nash and be like, hey, too sweet me, baby. Woo! For 20 years. No, he didn't do that. It was for life, right? And that's what it always felt like it meant at WWE, right? Like, come on, we all know, like, the Randy Ortons, right? These are lifers that we thought never going to AEW, never leaving the company, never anything but an amicable split. I'm sorry if these guys are here. And here's the other thing, right? Lifers mean something not in the sense that they have to be wrestling, but these guys were asked to take a pay cut on their contracts. They weren't offered different contracts. Like, hey guys, we really don't want to use y'all anymore. We're thinking, hey, y'all want to retire? And we'll give you these new what are they called? Mex just said they're going away. The Legends contracts, right? That was a great comment by Mex too. The Legends contracts, all that, like, that is what it means to be a lifer. It means that when Michael Jordan retires from the, well, okay, that's a bad example. When Frank Thomas retires, that's what that means. When Frank Thomas retires from the White Sox, he has an office position waiting for him. Okay. Fucking Dak Prescott, if he finishes his career with the Cowboys, he's got a coaching position waiting for him, or a scouting position, or an office, but some sort of cushy position, right? You see, we live in a capitalist world with corporations, right? And even though they frown on socialism, they do use socialism in a sense, right? Because what ends up happening in these franchises is that the people that have made them the most money over time, your Dan Marinos, your Joe Montanas, your Tom Brady's, these people are rewarded and they're kept in a cushy job where they don't have to do shit except for show up to some media appearances like 3 times a year, whatever, right? They get all the best seats they want at the fucking games. And, you know, they're just like a mascot, right? And they give him some cushy title, like, you know, senior exec in charge of blah, 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 or consulting or whatever the fuck, right? And that is the way they take care of these guys. And that is what should be the thing that happens, right? Biggio and Bagwell should be welcomed with open arms anytime they go to the Astros games, right? If those guys are buying a beer within a 5-mile vicinity of that stadium, shame on all of you. Shame on all of you in that stadium. Shame on all of you in Houston if those two men are eating anywhere in the vicinity of that building and you don't stop to give them pay for their entire thing. I don't care if it's your last $200 and they're super rich. Those are legends, all right? Where would we be without them? Anyway, the point I'm making, though, ultimately, is that seems to have gone away from that. Fans don't know what they want anyway. Yeah, that's true. Bro, I'll be honest, Matt. That Nebraska crowd was, oh my God. It's like all the marks and virgins decided to go to Nebraska. You know how all the people that were making really good money working like blue collar jobs in California and New York decided to move to Texas so that it could be a little more cost efficient while they still made the kind of money that you can make over there. Exo facto of that was the Omaha, Nebraska crowd. All the virgins from all over the states, right? The US, they've all moved to Nebraska, Omaha specifically, and all the virgins that are wrestling fans live in Omaha, Nebraska. What a mark ass fucking crowd, dude. Just such a mark. They're like just fucking just drinking the Kool-Aid up. And I'm not saying you can't have fun at Raw. Obviously, you can have fun at Raw. They cheered the shit out of the lamest They pushed fucking Javon Evans off the ropes and you thought that it was the second coming of Jesus, you would have swore to God you just heard the fucking the glass shatter on Stone Cold's music. You would have swear you just heard, if you smell, like this crowd was horned up from the floor up. Just drink, like not one New Day chant. And that's okay. I'm not saying you have to chant for New Day or Kyrie Sane. And Alex said it that other week. It's what did you say, Alex? You said it was what did you say? Disingenuous. It's disingenuous. And it is, right? It's just mostly the crowd trying to like be part of a moment, right? But ultimately, though, I will say that Raw hasn't been bad, right? Raw's been okay. Like, it's not like the product is suffering. Nobody seems to give a shit. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's really what all this is about. Like wrestling, entertainment, they all represent this, what is it? This like thing, right? It's a break from all the other drama that we have to deal with, right? Inflation, rising to an all-time high. The gas prices expected to reach 50% higher than they already are by Memorial Day or Labor Day. What is it? May Memorial, right? Labor Day is in September, whatever. By the summer, before the summer officially kicks off, with no end in sight of rising as the summer goes on. There's just so many things that are really big bummers that, I'm sure it's nice to go to a wrestling show and not have to think about that stuff. So the last thing you want to do is show up to a Raw and be like, man, this fucking company, right? And NIL will feed into the talent pool endlessly. Obafemi, Braun Breaker, Tiffany Stratton, Trick, and more all came from the... Trick came from it? What did Trick play in college? Or what did he do? Why did I not know Trick came from the NIL program? They put Sol Ruca over big time last night, by the way. Talking about her Oregon time as a gymnast and how she's a success from the NIL program. 4 years wrestling, dude. That's pretty good. People complain that talent don't get enough time, so they move SmackDown to 3 hours. Now SmackDown is too long. Yeah, but see, I definitely agree with what Matt is saying from a constitutional standpoint, right? Standing on the business of they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. And he's not wrong about that. But it's also a really cheap way of giving creative or WWE a loophole out of everything they fuck up. Like, think about it just like this with me for a second, okay? Let's all just follow this journey just for a second, okay? Maybe you don't agree with it, fine, but just pretend I'm your cult leader for 5 seconds, okay? Or maybe like 30. Pretend I'm your cult leader and everything I say is the word of God, okay? Just for 15 seconds or 30 seconds. And then we'll go back to remembering I'm a dipshit. The New Day were one of the most over acts last year, specifically when their heel turn happened. And it was fantasy booked out the ass because everybody was so excited about what was going to come from it. And this heel turn was so successful that they ended up being the most over act on WWE programming. Okay, so the weeks follow and literally shit is done all with this program. Heading into Mania, by the way, they were utilized in a situation where they could do an advert with the Viking Raiders. It made no sense as far as like storyline goes. There was no payoff ever, right? But again, these guys got so fucking over that WWE said, hey, we want to restructure your deal. We're going to give you 7 figures. Okay, it was more than 30 seconds. I'm your God for the next 5 minutes. Deal with it. And the thing is that they restructure their deal, 7 figures for however long it was, 5 years, I think. And then they do nothing with them. So they want to restructure their deal because they come back and they say, hey, you know what? You weren't worth this actually. But they weren't worth it because WWE didn't do anything with them. So how is it that the same people that get to control your creativity and the basis for which you're able to get over are the same people that are able to ultimately judge whether or not your juice is worth the squeeze? I'm done being your God. Please tell me that you can see the fucking flaw in that kind of shit. That is utterly retarded. That is downright hypocritical for sure, but what's the word? It's not corrupt. Is it? It's only corrupt if there's like actually meetings like, okay, who are we paying way too much so we can tank their career? That would be corrupt. But if it's like an unsaid thing, it's still a weird situation. You know what I'm saying? People want more new talent and less if the same guys, and then get mad them old guys get cut. Again, Matt, I agree with the tone of what you're saying, or I agree with the theme of what you're saying overall. Yes, you're right. They're damned if they do, damned if they don't. Fans are fickle. Fine. But you're not going to tell me that in wrestling of all places, you can't utilize old talent in a way that gets over new talent. In fact, how do you get over new talent if you don't utilize old talent? Now, it's probably a mistake to keep New Day around for 5 years if all you're going to do is beat them over and over and over, because at some point they're not going to get anybody over because everybody's used to them getting beat. But I can't think of a more worthy 7 figures than to give to the guy who could get Javon to the next level. And I think that's what Kofi could have done. So it's not even that, oh, I'm just so sad the New Day's gone. Like, no, I'm really not. I mean, it's not that I'm not sad. I am not. They're not really missed in terms of what was on the product. They weren't on TV, right? And they're not even the same act they used to be. The act that we have a nostalgia feel for, right? But what they are a proven commodity. What they are is a proven veteran squad that is capable of elevating talent. We've seen them do it. Now, I'll say they haven't done a great job with Grayson Waller, but could anybody have done a great job with good old Australian Morgan Waller? Probably not, right? And especially when you're not put on TV. AW about to not have a network. You know, Matt, those are like rumors that I don't believe at all. First of all, the merger isn't even like solidified in terms of like everything, right? There is no way anyone could know for certain where they're going to land in that situation. And I can also say that I think without a network in a situation where the deals terminated before it's supposed to be, they won't struggle to find someone to pick them up for a year or two. Not even close. I mean, I'm not going to say they're going to get a great deal out of it. I'm just saying that they can. I mean, look, Top Rank did it. All right. And I'm not going to even get into the argument of which one is the more valuable IP, but you know, that's right, Matt. Paramount is in bed with TKO and bought WBD. They won't renew AEW. Yeah, but they don't have to, right? And here's the other part. The metrics are there that they would be picked up by pretty much anyone. Well, maybe not anyone, but there are alternatives here. And ultimately, AEW has the ability to litigate in a situation where it could tie up the full like transference of both companies. Like the merge doesn't really exist, right? It's more of like a fucking hostile takeover. I mean, there is a merger to a degree, right? But most of these people at WBD are gone, right? Because they're going to switch and go in different directions. But ultimately, it's about money. There is no, like, let me put it this way, right? I fully expect that the wrestling bubble will pop, and at some point, TKO will sell WWE. TKO's Nick Khan or Ari Emanuel, Mark Shapiro, like these people give a shit about making money. That's it. And right now they're capable of not just making money, but they're capable of tweaking certain aspects of the WWE business model to increase profits tenfold. But when the day comes where the wrestling isn't as profitable as it once was, these guys are going to get out. And maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's 10 years, who knows? But I can tell you that there's no passion for wrestling here, right? The moment it becomes even semi unprofitable or borderline unprofitable, they will look for their out, right? This isn't a situation like Vince, where Vince was, that you had to take him away fucking scratching and crawling, right? They have no emotional ties to this shit at all. And if it makes for a better product, fine, but it doesn't really seem to be. Raw has been good. It's been good to average to good. Backlash in no way, shape, or form is more interesting today than it was the day after WrestleMania or the week after WrestleMania, right? Okay, maybe 2 weeks after WrestleMania, because it's like the full debuts. But Ricky Saints isn't even on it. So yeah, so I would say that it was like a week into it or whatever. But I just don't see the need for it's just like the slowest booking in the world, right? The problem isn't that, we have too many guys and not enough time. It's that y'all don't have the creative structure to get enough people over, and you think cramming a bunch of people in like multi-man matches is gonna that does anything, and it doesn't. Look, Oba got over against Otis in a match that lasted like a minute, right? And what did the Battle Royal do for Royce Keys? Jack all, bro. Jack all. Younger and fresher is what the people wanted. If you want nostalgia acts, watch TNA. I think that's kind of unfair too, because it's like only real 2 nostalgia acts, but point taken. Bringing up Hogan like he wasn't cut 2 times and removed from the Hall of Fame. I don't remember what that's in response to. The only thing I remember is me talking about Hogan being thought of as like damaged goods, and then like brings him back. Mech said no, Dak doesn't. Yeah, but that was a bad example too, probably. We haven't even hired Troy Aikman. Miami did, and he's been wanting to work for Dallas. Okay, fair point. All right, you poked the hole in that bubble real nice. That's another lie. Troy Aikman don't even have a job with Dallas. God damn it. I'm not trying. There was a bad example, guys. All right. Fuck. By the way, you should have been on the show and you could have given me a better example. I'm just kidding. Liv is going to take Roxanne to the next level. Liv, Raquel, Roxanne equals Triple H, Batista, and Randy. Yo, you're the fucking man, Alex. This right here, this is a comment right here. I'm going to use this as for a clip already. In fact, let me write it down. 114 into the show. Add a kid, Alex. Keep it coming. I disagree. TKO is building multiple monopolies to become an extreme sports version of ESPN in the next 10 years. At least that's the play I see. Here's the thing. If it works, yeah, I could see that for sure. I don't think that they're going to... Okay, because like, look, I'm not saying that TKO is going to like fold. I think that at some point, a business strategy shift will take WWE out of their like darling group. And I could be wrong. But the thing is that compared to boxing and MMA, the overhead for WWE is just fucking nuts. And if you're looking at ticket sales, not merch, because merch is, but like ticket sales and ad revenue and stuff like that, then you're going to get to a point where you're going to like, again, ask which of these things is worth the squeeze. they got into wrestling because it was the biggest product that wrestling had to offer. And they've doubled down on it because the revenue has been there. They've hit every mark that they've wanted to hit. And by the way, here's the other part of this that tells you that WWE is not a wrestling company anymore, and it is now a conglomerate that is like Walmart or any other place that sees numbers on a page and not people. You could tell because hold on. Where is this? No, I don't. I'm not gonna go there, champ. I appreciate you. I do, but I don't. People don't even want to talk politics. People don't even like when we're talking politics on this show. Okay, so that is not even politics. That's like fucking crazy shit, bro. I'm not trying to call you crazy. I'm sorry. I just meant that I don't want to have that conversation. But anyway, back to now I forgot what I was gonna say. God damn it. Well, that's all right. ESPN in the next 10 years. Yeah, and the play could work out, right? MMA, boxing, all being the both being having the ability to be the centerpiece of TKO. WWE is a monster machine, but it's really hard to operate at that level for a long time, sustained. It's like you have to remember, like, the reason the NFL and the NBA and the MLB will always have a leg up on all other, individual sports or singularly played sports, like 1v1, like tennis and stuff like that, is because the territory era never died for the NFL, right? The territory era is still very much alive. The difference is the Vince McMahon in that situation, put them all under one umbrella, instead of buying them all out to consolidate under a New York faction or a New York business headquarters. And then ultimately a Connecticut head business quarters, a New York operating base. The NFL said, well, no, y'all can keep operating wherever y'all are. You're just going to all pay us. Right. And so the territory market keeps the NFL thriving, right? You can be from fucking California, Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi, and you don't even have to like fucking love the team in your state. You could say fuck them, and like LA or like New York or Florida's team or whoever the fuck, right? I was 10 years old, or actually I was way younger than that. I was probably like 5. And my uncle Mario would watch, this is Adam's dad, he would watch sports like all day nonstop. That and Seinfeld. And he would watch like his favorite teams. He loved the Broncos, he loved the Cowboys, Oilers. But his basketball team was the Lakers. He fucked with the Rockets, but the Lakers were really his team. And so because, we love watching sports with him, like I adopted that team after he passed. I always liked the Lakers. I always liked their lore and shit. But anyway, San Antonio was a fucking powerhouse when I was in middle school, right? This was their basketball era of like, oh, they play like perfect basketball and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, well, whatever the fuck ever. I hated it. I hated San Antonio. I hated everyone from San Antonio because they loved the Spurs and they were just so annoying. I remember thinking, is this how people think of us as Cowboy fans? Because I hate this. And that's the beauty of the NBA and the NFL. But wrestling doesn't have that. Like, you have to catch fire and then you have to know how to like keep it blazing, right? Have you ever seen like those wilderness shows like Naked and Afraid? I love those shows. Those are the best. I love when they're naked. No, I'm just kidding. That was a weird thing to say. And so like, when they have to like do a fire, but it had like just rained or it's like super cold, and the method for which you can start a fire in the wilderness like doesn't work right? Because it's like everything's wet. And then they like find a way to like catch it, right? And then it starts to fire. Okay, so catching the fire is not the hard part. It's keeping the fire. It's keeping it growing slowly, right? If it catches too quick, it burns up. If it catches too slow, it dies out. So you have to have that right momentum just popping. And for example, Obafemi has that right now. A lot of guys have that right now that are, or not a lot, but there have been a lot of guys that have had it. And they went nowhere. So ultimately, I just don't know if WWE can sustain the kind of business that the Endeavor portion of TKO will appreciate. Did you see the UFC 6 trailer? I have been sent it by 4 different people, and I haven't watched it once. So let's watch it together. How about that? Bros, I want y'all to know, please go to Twitch. We're going to be live tonight, and we're going to be live tomorrow, IRL. But we're going to be playing UFC 6. We're going to be playing GTA. Bro, we're ready. Oh my God. Why do you okay? Oh, Billy, sweet Billy boy. I know. I appreciate that you come on the chat to offer topics, and it makes me very happy that you want to participate in that way. And it also is very helpful to me, who's running the show and has to be both the host and producer, to have other people throw in topics like Alex does, and Matt and Mex and Bruce and everybody else. And it's very helpful. But bro, it's like you want to get me canceled or something. Like I mean, you're like, Mario, thoughts, Israel, Palestine. Like, what? What do you want me to say to that? I mean, that's not what he asked, but I mean, this isn't that bad. It was, he wants us to talk about the Meg the Stallion and Clay shit. And I'd rather not. I'm gonna end up saying some fucked up shit that I can't take back. And so I'd rather not, All right, sorry. He said I'd rather not either. Yeah, me neither. It's just like, who gives a fuck? I mean, no. Let me put it this way. The topics that have come from it are actually really interesting. And that's where I'd get in trouble, because I would say the thing that would be absolutely factually true and backed up by data, but it would be like, it would sound offensive to people, I think. And not that I care, but it's like, again, why would I talk about something that I know I have a hot take about, that I just don't give a shit? Like, I really don't give a shit. I mean, first of all, he's a basketball player. Isn't there like a stat out there that like 80% of basketball players, or some crazy number, have gone through with infidelity? Like, oh, Clay cheated on Meg. Oh, in other news, water wet. In other news, Michael Jackson's dead. When? All right. UFC trailer. I've got sunshine on a cloudy day. Look, I popped up on myself. Oof, already. That was hype. All right, let's see. Oh, what the fuck? It's not even on here. My bad. Nope, that's not it. Hold on. God damn it, I ruined this. such an idiot. Wait, where the fuck is my thing? Oh my God, this is retarded. What is going on? Oh, there it is. Jesus Christ. I was like, where is this thing at? That's not even the right one either. That's not it either. I don't know what happened to this thing. Oh, well. No smell. How is that? God, I hate this thing. Okay. Okay, let's watch. Hey, can y'all hear the volume? Somebody let me know. Oh, that's nasty work. Oh, man. Did you see the leg shift? Look at this. Look at the weight shift. So in other fight nights, in other UFCs and MMA, the leg kicks, they're just like, they're almost like switch kicks, right? There's no actual shifting. And who would expect that? Because that's like way too far, right? Look at that. That was a weight shift to the other side so we could throw that. Oh, that was sick. Wait, Conor McGregor. That's Conor McGregor? That's a terrible Conor McGregor. That looks like Conor McGregor had sex with Chris Weidman and JBL. No, not JBL. Let me see. This Conor McGregor looks like if Chris Weidman had sex with Mike Trout and maybe DDP. I don't know. I can't tell, but that's definitely not Conor McGregor. Oh, that's sick. I like how they use I like how they use them to get fucked up. Yo, that cut on the lip is nasty. Yo, you know what I've always wanted, Alex? Thank you. I appreciate that, by the way, for letting me know. You know what I always wanted on fight games? I know this is psychotic, but I've always wanted like hematomas and like more than just the standard like cut and paste cuts and bruises. You know what I mean? Like let's see some gory stuff that we've seen in MMA and boxing, right? Oh, I cannot wait, dude.
So you want to be a fighter?
Oh, Ken Shamrock!
Show the world you ought to be feared. Born to make that walk. Different is dangerous.
Damn, they got old GSP. Who is that?
Rhythm. Combo.
DDP?
Strikes they can't solve.
Bro, where's Cortez in this
Pressure
bit?
that suffocates. Signatures.
I like how they haven't made any new women's MMA stars from the last one that came out, so they're just using the
define the These
all the
become
pad
your
work
story.
is sick.
From
Let's see what they look
become your
like.
story.
All right. John Anik is quality. That is quality right there. And I'll be honest, I think they got the bloat on the champ here just right. Yep. That looks like the perfect combination of water and cheeseburgers. Very good. Very good on this. You know, as it listen, you know, I've covered a couple of fights in my life, but commentating was my dream. I never ever wanted to be a journalist, just so y'all know. Never ever. I was hoping to be like a fiction writer, Like if Thomas Hauser and Ernest Hemingway got together and then fucked, and then I was the product of their brilliance. And then that's what I wanted, right? But then Ness was like, "Hey, dude, you should do the podcast." I'm like, "Fine." And then, but I always wanted to commentate. Always, since I was a little kid, I would turn the volume down, or I would call matches. Do you remember the radios that we used to have that would have the tapes that you could put, and then if you had the 2 tapes, you could push play and record, and it would record you? I used to turn on videos like Royal Rumble 93, or just I would pop in any one of them and I would record myself as a commentator. And then as I got older, I was like, dude, I want to be Jim Lampley. That's who I want to be. That's what I want to do. I want to take the most seemingly violent moments in sports and articulate them in a way that anyone can understand the artistic value in boxing and the poetic nature of its narratives, specifically when they come to a satisfying end. So I wanted to be that. And then I got into the game and it's like, oh, that's impossible unless I like start campaigning and move to LA or Vegas or something like that. And then when we got the chance to do it, me, Ness, and Doomy, and Christy Martin signed us on for I think it was a 3-fight deal we had. It was like a 6-month deal, but it was like 3 fights is what we did at the Atlanta gyms. It was a dream come true. So it's nice to see a lot of detail put into.
From back rooms.
Ooh, they're gonna do backroom shit. Nah, chill, champ. The hell? Why is Dana White looking like he's gonna murder one of them?
From back room.
That's sick, dude. That's sick. We're gonna fight in the hotel, bro. I'll squabble in the hotel. That would be so awesome. They would never do it though, because it's like encouraging like pre-fight brawls, I guess. I don't know. They would have some lame reason they wouldn't want to do it. But yo, if I could pick, listen to me. When we get UFC 6 and we start running the gameplay, if there's an alternative to just be like a giant piece of shit or like have the career of a Nate Diaz and self-sabotage, you better believe I'm self-sabotaging every fucking time. If they're like, choose yes to squabble in the casino and not get paid and get banned from the UFC for a year, or choose to go through with the fight, win or lose, you become a household name and they put you on future video games and Wheaties boxes. It's like, nope, let's fucking squabble now. That's what we're doing. That's who I am. That's gonna be my career. Okay, I'll be honest. I thought he was staring at a stripper when I first saw this and I was gonna crash out. And now this is even weirder because it's somehow not the UFC logo bald guy, and it's also somehow missing every bit of a penis. And it's not that I want to see a penis. I just don't want to see extended belly button. That's weird. And then it's also barefoot. Oh yeah, that's creepy. UFC 300. Uh-oh, we're a little late. This is dope. This is dope. Are these supposed to be like screens? What the fuck is this?
To bright light.
Oh, that's sick. That's sick. Oh my God, this looks so good. Oh, Jesus. Good God. Oh my God. Why does Buffer look like he's in the part 3 of Smile? He's like, no. Oh, what's that movie? Oh, no. You know that, okay, I'm going to show my age here. You know that episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark with the ghastly grinner? And he's like a clown from like the comic book realm. And then when he comes to the real world, he turns people into like laughing idiots. That's exactly what they look like, from the purple mouth down to the face that is surgically stuck this way. This is actually what Bruce looks like, actually, when he is not in makeup.
The octagon is where you write yours.
Oh, shit.
Whether you wind up the hero or footnoting someone else's.
Oh, that's
It's
a
up to
good line.
Here, who you are
Ooh,
is how you win.
of course they have Correa on top. Oh, fuck yeah. Was that Uriah Faber?
It's time you make things personal. Fight your fight.
Oh, hell yeah. The hell? Randy Couture's a big reveal? I see it. Cool. This is cool. Yeah, dude, I'm excited for this, bro. Let's see. Alex said, I have this feeling Dubois is going to win. I may pick him by KO, but I like Wardley. You gonna put money on it, champ, or no? We're going golfing on Thursday. Kamza and Sean literally have police escorts following them around. Yeah, dude. Look, I don't want to. Well, okay. Wait. First of all, we'll get there. We'll get there. I just let me finish up these last few story notes real quick. Okay. So let me see. Okay, so we talked about the Roman stuff. I want to talk about the New Day stuff real quick. Last couple wrestling topics before we move on. So an interesting conversation has developed in the internet. Now, I want to make this clear. I don't think that it's a foregone conclusion, actually, that the New Day go to AEW. I would love to see them in AEW. I think they certainly have something to add, specifically to a roster of relatively green wrestlers in the sense of TV matches and what it means to have a wrestling match for a combined live and TV audience versus what it means to simply just have a match, right? But the narrative has been this: if the New Day do end up getting to AEW, let me see. Okay, if we do get the New Day to AEW, right? How should they be presented? Should the New Day be a surprise, right? Which is, let's be honest, that's probably not going to happen in any way, but it could be more of a surprise, right? While the dirt sheets are likely to get some of it, it wouldn't be a situation like Paige, I don't think, where everybody would just be like in the know. And also, I think Tony has a good enough relationship with the dirt sheets that if he really wanted to make this a surprise, he could. Now, the other argument is that to bring in New Day, you're going to have to give them a contract that's like pretty crazy, right? They were making 7 figures reportedly for WWE a year, 5 million, I think, for 5 years, or it's like 5 point something, whatever. Ultimately, I think this. if you're going to bring in the New Day, it's going to cost you some money. And if you're going to bring in the New Day, you don't want to blow your load by overbooking them right away, right? You want them to get to each of their stories organically, right? You don't want to pay off their entire run in the first month, right? That said, though, there is something to be said about what's missing from wrestling today as it relates to surprises. When I was a wrestling fan as a young kid, there was really no internet. I mean, there was, but it didn't work in the same way that it works today. There was no social media. There were no, there was no ability to really share information like that, right? Still took time. You still had to have some sort of know-how to be able to like post stuff on the internet or develop a website, or GoDaddy wasn't really a thing at this point, right? So in that era, we were surprised when Lex Luger came out. That was a shock. Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, and while there might have been a lot of people reading the Observer back then and knew exactly who was coming over when, and what fucking gimmicks they were running, the vast majority of us did not. Today, that is different. And because that is different, it is very difficult to hide anything. WWE went through painstaking, they went through painstaking ordeal just to keep the Hardy Boys a secret when they came back to WWE for WrestleMania. That was 24 hours after they had a pretty tough ladder match with the Young Bucks. Or actually, no, it was a week later, I think. But anyway, the point I'm making is that there's something missing from wrestling as it relates to surprises. And I get the argument. I do. And maybe the New Day couldn't be brought over as a surprise. Maybe the kind of money we're talking about, it would have to be advertised. You would have to try to get some sort of advertisement pop or live audience viewership pop or TV audience viewership pop. But at the end of the day, you want it to mean something. Now, reportedly, their non-compete will end somewhere around mid-July, maybe closer to late July. It's really not known at what point it starts from or anything like that. Also, there are reports that WWE is still trying to lock down Woods with a contract that would essentially make him the focal point, keep him as the focal point for up, up, down, down. The platform for which WWE uses to launch their 2K stuff and all that. Assuming he doesn't sign with WWE for the Tyler Breeze deal, which Tyler Breeze got the same kind of deal. Assuming that that happens, or that doesn't happen, right? And I don't expect Woods to do that. Kofi and Woods both posted yesterday on social media for the first time since the news, and both of them made it sound very clear that they know their worth and that WWE and them are very far apart from where their worth is or what they see it as. So again, I get that you'd probably have to build it up. You'd probably have to advertise it. But I really don't think you have to. At the end of the day, their biggest show is coming up, right? All Out or All In, whatever. And at that show in Wembley, it is expected that, there's a lot of different matches. One of those matches that is being talked about is FTR versus Cope and Christian and the Young Bucks in a TLC match, or at least a ladder match, which is an incredible match, which would be awesome, which would be definitely enough to sell tickets, right? What would it mean to keep New Day a surprise and unveil them on that night? Maybe not as the foils to anything, but perhaps just as a kind of like temperature check at the end of the night after one of those teams have won and both of the other teams are on the outside looking in, devastated. Boom, here comes the New Day to completely shake up this roster. If that does happen, what would be the difference between the pay-per-view buys and the attendance and the live viewership and the online interaction between that happening and New Day being advertised for a show? Because I don't think there's that big a difference. I don't think there's a huge difference, because ultimately you're not going to have any time to really build up the New Day to do anything, right? And I think that the money match with the New Day is probably the Young Bucks, even after all this time. If you were watching wrestling in 2017, 18, 19, you know two things to be true. WWE fucking sucked. Terrible era. Terrible. Borderline unwatchable. And you also know that most people were desperate for that Elite versus New Day 6-man. And now those days are gone, right? Big E can't wrestle. But I think that it could go a long way in revitalizing all the parties, right? That was a very, very big narrative. I mean, the Young Bucks have essentially got to the point as a group where they were almost as important as Cody and Omega to building the outside of WWE era, right? The AEW era, the Indies, whatever, ROH. When they did the not the takeover, what was it called? Like the remember when DX did that to WCW and they tried to go breach? Remember the Elite did that to WWE. That was one of the most exciting things that happened in wrestling at that time, right? And again, Cody is a former WWE wrestler, right? Omega has a highlight reel that basically turns anybody that watches it into a fan. And yet the Young Bucks were able to hold just as much heat. And yes, they're an incredibly talented group. And yes, they have a way of working the internet to, get over. However, I truly believe that it was the New Day that helped them get to this point where they were a vital enough attraction that Tony Khan was willing to bet on them in the same fashion he was willing to bet on Cody, same fashion he was willing to bet on Omega. While Chris Jericho existed at a level above them all, they as a unit meant something to that time in that era. If you could try to recapture that, that would be huge. And I don't think you need to do anything rushed in the year, right? I don't want to see it slow played, right? Like WWE today is glacial storytelling. Glacial. It is as slow as it gets sometimes. Look, for example, Raw last night, we can talk about that for a little bit. Raw last night was a decent show. And it would have been a great show if it wasn't the same show that we've already seen basically for the last 2 weeks. Why did we get Finn Balor and JD McDonough again? And why did we have a finish that seemed like Roxanne Perez and Liv were not on the same side, even though they literally were trying to do the exact same thing? It just is the same, right? Trouble in the Judgment Day, one character on the outs while the rest of them seemingly all the same page, like same thing. So I don't know, breaking up the monotony seems like something that could work. I really, really believe it. Listen, we are going to come right back. We will be back in 20 minutes. You know what? Should I stay live? I just got to run and pick something up. But we still have boxing and MMA to talk about. You know what? I'm just going to cut out. I'm going to cut out, and when I come back, we're going to be on Twitch and X and YouTube only. If you haven't signed up or subbed or followed, please hit that follow and that sub. Literally, this is the first time I'm even mentioning it. Infight and FX on all platforms: YouTube, Twitch, X, and TikTok. IG, Infight and FX, and at Marimungia, MARIOMUNGIA, is where you can follow me. And then at Infighting FX, INFIGHTINGFX. All together. You have to put the @ symbol at the beginning, otherwise it won't pop up. at InfightingFX. Shout out to Alex. He's already predicting Morel's winning by KO this weekend. Hell yeah. So yeah, we'll be back in 30 minutes or less. You can set your clock to it. Turn on your notifications just to be sure. But when we come back, we'll be talking about UFC 328 and all its glory. It's a great card. It really is. Chimaev-Strickland is obviously a fight that we hope actually happens, but Joshua Van and Tatsuro is a very, very interesting matchup. Volkov and Costa is a great fight. Waldo Cortez, who's, a guy that we've covered for a while on the show. Saw him fight in ESPN, dude. I saw him fight on Fight Network. It was an old like Iron Man card or some weird shit, or not weird, but some independent promotion. And I was like, dude, this guy has some fucking hands. This guy has hands for sure. And he didn't have a bad ground game. I mean, it wasn't good, but it wasn't bad. And so I really thought he had the ability to make a name for himself. And that's what he's doing now, I think. Even though he did, so he came up through the DAZN or the Dana White's Contender Series, and he suffered his first loss of his career at UFC Fight Night, Song versus Simon. That was in April 29th of 2023 when he lost to Rogerio de Lima. And Rogerio beat him by unanimous decision. But then he went on a 6 fight win streak, capped off by KOing Ryan Spann, beating Spivak was his last fight. Those were both really good wins. Beat Arvlowski, which, that's a good name to put on your resume, even though, beating him in 2024 isn't really, a feather in your cap in the same way that it used to be. However, Derek Lewis was the recent name that he beat that has had reverberating effects on his career. He beat Derek Lewis in January of this past year. That was at the first UFC Paramount card, I think, Gaethje and Pimblett. And anyway, he won that fight, and now he is in a position to fight Volkov. And I believe that the winner of this fight is set up for something prime. I really do. Heavyweight division is obviously a division that is struggling right now in the UFC. Not a lot of people have hopes for it. There had even been calls to get rid of the heavyweight division. And so this is a chance for one of these guys to absolutely step up. Okay. Absolutely step up and absolutely make their fight count on fight night. But that's going to be on the main card. Shout out to Alex, who talked about Sean Brady and Joaquin Buckley, both with some beef. And I think this is a matchup that can't miss. I think that there is a good chance this fight ends before the third round. And then the fight that I'm really looking forward to is the first on the main card, and that is going to be King Green and Jeremy Stevens. Bro, this fight right here, this is it. All right. If you haven't been seeing Green, he's been doing the rounds on Kick, and he's been, on a few other places, just kind of putting in work for the fight. But yeah, that is going to be a very, very good fight. Great card. Grant Dawson's in an interesting matchup. Jim Miller is fighting against Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon is not the youngest fighter in the world, and yet he's 37, and yet he's 5 years older or younger than Jim Miller at 42 years of age. Jim Miller, who, if you've been watching MMA long enough, he's a legendary lightweight. Okay. absolute legendary lightweight with absolute legendary ground game. BJJ, fun fighter, always came and brought it. Very interesting matchup type guy. He's on record in his last fight losing to Chase Hooper. I'm sorry, Chase Hooper. But you know, there's a guy who's still going out there and doing it, right? This was April 12th of last year, so it'll be just over 12 months since Jim Miller had been last in the cage. And coincidentally enough, in the last 3 fights, he lost. That first loss was against King Green in April 13th of 2024, who's also on the card. Gabriel Benitez and Jesse Butler were his 2 wins before that. This is a guy in Jim Miller who's got so much skill that he can beat you, right? But he's just so beyond his prime that he could also shit the bed against almost anyone as well. God, he's got such a great resume though, dude. Such a great resume. Look at this. God. And I mean, he didn't win them all, obviously, but just he fought everybody, dude. He fought everybody. Matt Wyman, Gray Maynard, bro, who in my opinion is like one of the best MMA boxers. Him and what's his name that he had the trilogy with? What was his name? God damn this piece of shit. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Frankie Edgar. Yo, those were some of the best UFC boxing matches ever. I urge you to go watch Frankie Edgar and Gray Maynard, and you will come back and you will say, yeah, it wasn't like the greatest boxing technique ever utilized, but for an MMA fight for which you have to stay mostly squared up and you can't shoulder out, it was good, very good. So yeah, where were we? So he loses to Gray Maynard, right? And this is in 2009. This is like peak Gray Maynard, right? Then he beats Mac Danzig, Steve Lopez with a KO, Dwayne Ludwig, Gleason Thibault, Charles Oliveira, Benson Henderson, he loses to. This is in 2011. This is also peak Benson Henderson. Beats Melvin Gillard, who, I don't think Melvin Gillard did a lot of work over the last decade to make sure that people don't recognize how incredibly talented he was at MMA. That's a very good win. Loses to Nate Diaz. Actually, Nate Diaz and Melvin Gillard, I think, fought right after that. Joe Lazon, he beats in a decision, and this was a huge fight because Joe Lazon had a reputation for being, the bad boy on the ground, but also willing to take it, toe to toe with the fist. This was, I remember, one of the bigger fights that they had booked at a time when it seemed both of them were like both elevating their careers towards a place. Neither one of them ended up becoming like a household name, right? Or even like much bigger than probably just like relevant to hardcores and people that know. But yeah, anyway, Pat Healy, yeah, they had the draw. I remember, but I don't remember what happened. What happened? That was a no contest with Pat Healy. I don't remember. Fabricio, he submitted him and Yancey after this, dude. Those were back-to-back submissions, and everybody was like, "Oh shit, this is it. He's going on the run." Then he gets TKO'd by Donald Cerrone, and this is 2014. And if you don't know what that signifies, it signifies Donald Cerrone's rise to the top. Now, Donald Cerrone was a guy who wasn't considered the best in WCW, specifically of the batch of guys that came over like Anthony Pettis and Benson Henderson. However, Donald Cerrone was always game, and he had such a tight BJJ game. So we get to a point where you could argue that this fight with Jim Miller was the fight that was going to usher in one of like to the next level. And unfortunately, Jim Miller lost. Donald Cerrone won. Good for him. And he went on to have a much more significant commercial career than Jim Miller. And then Beneil, he lost to him by decision. That was actually a fight where honestly he could have lost at any point. Darush was just, he was on it at that point. Danny Castillo, man, y'all remember Danny Castillo, dude? What happened to this dude? Oh shit. Last fight 2015, bro. Took 4 losses in a row, but look, lost to Tony Ferguson, Jim Miller, and then Lentz is his last loss that he had. But yeah, bro, I remember this dude, Danny Castillo, was so good. Knew how to sell a fight, and he brought the excitement. Michael Chiesa, who's another one of these legendary lightweights that fans have very fond memories of, and they are quality fighters, but they never got that like next level recognition, right? Michael Chiesa, from the tough days, he I think won, right? Yeah, he won his division. And yeah, so, and then Diego Sanchez, 2016, I wouldn't say Diego Sanchez like the best win. Neither was Gomi, but that's a big name to have on your resume. If you don't know Gomi and what he did in Japan and what he represented at this point, yeah. And then Joe Lazon, he got again and beat him again, this time decision split, which I remember that was a good fight. Beat Thiago Alves. And that is where I think the most relevant version of Jim Miller came to a crashing halt. Because after that, he'd lose to Dustin Poirier in another sort of like fighter go home, not fighter go home, but what's the word? Fuck, I can't think of it. But it's like one of those crossroads type fights again, right? And Dustin Poirier, even though in 2005 he's already built himself and his brand up, this signified his next next shot up the superstar levels. Yeah, and then lost to Anthony Pettis after that. Dan Hooker he lost to in 2018. Beat Alex White before losing to Charles Oliveira. Clay Guida. Man, this guy, see, that's what I'm telling you. Jim Miller fought them all, dude. Stop playing with this guy's name, bro. Clay Guida, another one of these guys, though I'd say he had more commercial appeal. Even if you don't remember his name, there are casual fans out there that will never forget, this little caveman looking dude, just fucking rolling around everywhere on the floor and shit. Let's see. Joe Solecki, he lost to back-to-back. Then he put 3 wins in a row, submitting Donald Cerrone in the process, which, again, very, very, very impressive. Jesse Butler he beats, Gabriel Benitez he beats, loses to King Green, and then Damon Jackson and Chase Hooper, as we spoke about. So ultimately, here we are in Jim Miller's career, and this could be his last fight. Is it his last fight, or do we already know that? I don't even know. Yeah, no. So he wants to get to 50 fights before he retires. He is at, wait, what? Oh, maybe 50 fights in the UFC? Oh, I'm not counting all this. I don't know. But his record is almost 60 fights. So, yeah. Damn, he only has 7 TKOs. I would not, or KO/TKOs. I would have definitely thought he was in double digits. He has good hands. He's actually, I'm not gonna say he's heavy-handed, but he he packed a punch, dude. He did. And from the southpaw position, he really understood how to get torque from your lead hand, right? You know, because the thing is like when southpaw fights orthodox, what y'all have to understand is that there are tried and true measures for protecting yourself against one or the other, right? The best punch for a lefty versus a righty is the right hand. The orthodox fighter is not used to the lead hand being that close. Normally, he's here, right? And then the other fighter's here. So they're sharing lead arms. So my lead arm's here and his lead arm's here. So there is a range between us. But then you reverse it, and my lead arm's here and your lead arm's here, and we're now in front of each other. You don't expect that fucking up and over, right? You drop the hand, so then he drops, and then you bring it over. We saw Canelo do that. We saw who else? Kovalev do that, or not Kovalev, Stevenson, Adonis Stevenson get away with that kind of move. It's a tried and true method for scoring with from the southpaw stance. That's why a lot of times you'll see right-handed fighters who will ultimately switch based on momentum, right? Like they threw a right hand from the orthodox and then they chased it or followed it is what coach might say in the gym. So you throw it and now your momentum takes and now you switched sides, right? Now you're throwing the right hand that you just had from the power position as a lead. And that is how the highest level of boxers operate and think. Okay. So yeah, anyway, the most interesting fight in the prelims, in my opinion, is Joel Alvarez and Amasov. Yeah, I let me see, where is it? Let me go back to the card. And the point I was going to make with Jim Miller was, we saw Cub Swanson in his swan song, so to speak. We saw Cub Swanson give his I was going to say his Cubs swan song. We saw him retire this year. Who else did we see this year retire? Or was it last year? Y'all are going to have to help me. Who am I missing? Somebody retired not that long ago. God damn it. I want to say it was a featherweight, not Cub Swanson. I don't remember. Either way, this could be Jim Miller's, moment right here. Yeah, anyway. But you said, where is it? Oh, yeah, here it is. So you got the Ukrainian versus the Spanian. He's from Spain. I don't know why I said it that way. But yeah, Joel Alvarez, who's been on a pretty decent run lately.
All right, guys, live on ESPN in 5.
Volume. Sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. So he's been on a good run, or decent run, great run. 4 wins, 3 out of the 4 he finished and made it an early night for himself. 2 KOs and 1 sub. Beating Brenner is a decent fight, I think. Elvis Brenner, especially the way he did it.
ESPN is your home for every out-of-market game, live or on demand.
Let's see what else here. Okay, this is enough. This is enough right here. I'm done with you. And so, yeah, we're gonna see this matchup answer, I think, a very important question for the welterweight division from these two guys. I'm not super familiar with Yaroslav? Yeah, I know the last name. I'm just saying. I don't. Is it Yaroslav? So this is a guy who's been with the American Top Team. He transitioned from, I don't remember who, but he's been with them for a while now. 30 fights in UFC or in MMA. Only 1 fight in the UFC so far. This is a guy who competed mostly in Bellator for his for his US MMA career. And there's some notable names on his resume outside of the UFC. Let me see. I'll tell y'all when I recognize somebody. Well, Roberto Saldic is the guy that was fought in one. Yep, one. I know him. Maybe I don't know that many people that he's fought. Oh, Nathan Oliveira. This was the Anaconda choke. Yes, this was a fucking crazy submission win. And then let's see. He beat Eric Silva in Bellator. That's a good win. Ed Ruth, a decent win by decision, I guess. Douglas Lima was a title match that he won by unanimous decision. And then he fought Logan again. This was the second time they fought. He beat him both other times. And then he lost to Jason Jackson in 2023. Disappeared for about a year and a half. Then we saw him fight Curtis Millender, who, if you remember, he used to fight. Yeah, Bellator, UFC. Yep. I knew it was one of them, but I thought it was both of them. So, he's on a 2-fight win streak, but this is his second fight in the UFC. So these guys are on like kind of two different narratives, right? You got one of them who is looking to capitalize on the momentum he's created and the hard work that he's done in the UFC. And then you have another guy who has a solid outside resume and reputation, looking to stake his claim against somebody who is shown that they can compete at that UFC level. Yeah, so this is a good card, dude. We're going to talk about it in depth. We're going to talk about Strickland. I'm going to run. We'll be back in half an hour, and we will be back. Alvarez has better striking, but they can both choke each other out with their signature guillotines if they can grab a neck. Yeah, to be honest with you, I have a feeling that they're going to try to go toe-to-toe for the vast majority of the fight. I think that if one of them gets in trouble, we could see we could see one of them change or alter strategies. That said, one of the things I want to talk about when we come back is there is a narrative going around that BJJ is useless now, that it has no room in MMA, this current version of MMA, and that most of the most successful aspects of BJJ being utilized in MMA right now are actually things that are taught, in Samba and infighting when it comes to like certain other martial arts. So there is a narrative that BJJ is absolutely useless in MMA. I could not disagree more. However, I can agree to say that it is a storyline worth visiting and discussing for sure. 100%, especially when you think about BJJ being like one of the catalysts for UFC and MMA. So appreciate you, Alex, in the chat. We'll be right back. Shout out to Machine Gun Matt and Supermax. Hopefully they can jump on when I come back. But until then, 30 minutes, we will be back. Peace.